This is Teach Your Way with BenQ, where educators find ideas that work. Let's get started.
Hi everyone, thank you for joining us on today's episode of Teach Your Way with BenQ. I am your host today, Lauren McMillian. I am one of the customer success specialists with BenQ, and my co-host today is Crystal Yao. She is also a customer success specialist as well. Today we're going to be talking about our lesson elements of the BenQ board. One of the things that teachers ask us about all the time is lesson creation and what our lesson software looks like. So our main lesson software is utilizing EZWrite 6. This software can be downloaded on your device. So if you're joining us today and watching, be sure to go ahead and grab your computer or grab your iPad, whatever device you have EZWrite on, because Crystal's going to be walking us through how you can easily create lessons on your own device and then access them from the board. So those of you that are listening, this might be a good episode to wait and do when you have your computer or can be at your board, so you can kind of run through all of the things and follow along with us. So Crystal, talk to us a little bit about what that lesson creation looks like and what does that process look like for you?
Yeah, so I'd love to show you guys the process of how to get things from like any device onto the board. But then I also first wanted to talk about, our teachers, they don't have a lot of time during the day to prep. Prep times are usually very, very short, but if you ever need to prep from home or from anywhere else, we have a lot of different options for you to do that. I'm going to start by tapping on EZWrite 6, and I'm going to open up a lesson that I've already created. So I'm going to go to my import tool right here and tap on the EZ file right here. And I have my Google Drive already linked in the background through AMS. And so I'm going to go into my Google Drive and tap until I get to my lesson. And you can see here, I can choose which pages that I want to pull in. If I want to pull in both, I can, or I just pull in one. So I'll tap OK to bring those in. And so here I've already preloaded a few things in my lesson. I have my anchor chart, but then on the second page, I have some pieces that I can move around here. Let me move this. Oh, wait. So I can move some of these pieces around. They are interactive pieces. To get here, I actually made this on my laptop and then I loaded it into my Google Drive. So I'm going to show you what that looks like from the computer and then how I actually brought it into here. All right. So I first wanted to talk about some of the options that we have for EZWrite 6. So you have the option to download it if you have a Mac or if you have a Windows laptop or a desktop, you can do that. Or you can download that. You also have the option to use our web-based version of EZWrite. So you can sign in and use it that way. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and show you what it looks like in the EZWrite Windows software, since that's what I'm running right now. So I have part of my lesson already built out. I'm just missing a few pieces. So I just wanted to show you what that looks like. So I'm missing right now one of my thousands blocks. And so I'm going to go ahead and use my import tool and click on image files right here. And I'm going to pull in my little cube to represent my thousands block. And so now I just need to wait for it to bring it in, but I'm going to make it a little bit smaller so it's a little bit easier to manipulate. Since I actually want to also incorporate an anchor chart, I can add a page simply by clicking the little plus sign at the bottom right, and I can pull in a PDF of something that I already have here. So I'm going to click on my import tool, then the little PDF icon, and then I'm going to pull something in from my computer. So let me go here real quick and pull that in. It's right here. All right, so here I have my anchor chart that's pulling in or loading. And just so you're aware, when you pull PDFs in, you're able to choose which pages that you want, just like we did earlier with our EZWrite file. And now you can see here, when I click on the bottom right, I can see my pages are a little out of order. I want to start with my anchor chart, and then I want to move into manipulating the blocks and showing my students how to represent different place values or represent different numbers. So what I can do is I can tap and hold, click and hold, and then I can go over or pull it up, and now I've rearranged my page numbers. So something that you might want to keep in mind whenever you're creating your lessons on your desktop or your whatever device you're using, whenever you shift it to the board, it might look slightly different because each one is optimized for that device. So it might look a little bit different. Some pieces might shift, but just some things to keep in mind. Now, something else, whenever you're creating something on your device with an EZWrite, There are some like font differences. And so in the show notes, we'll put a list of those fonts that are going to be consistent across the board. And you don't have to worry about putting one font on your, in your lesson on your desktop, but not having it show up the same on the board. So just some things to keep in mind. Now, what I'm going to do here, I've already got my lesson created. I've got my anchor chart. I've got my second page with the blocks. Now I'm going to go ahead and save this to my computer. So I'm going to go to the little hamburger menu on the top, bottom left, and then I'll click export. I'm going to save it as an EZWrite file because I want it to stay as an EZWrite file so I can easily pull that in onto my board. So I'm just going to save this on my desktop. Okay, save. So with our boards, remember, you have the option to link your Google Drive or your Dropbox or your SharePoint or OneDrive, whatever cloud drive that you use. You can link that within our AMS, but I have a Google Drive, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it into there. And that way it's going to make it really easy for me to pull it onto my board. Let me pull this in, and it's going to go ahead and upload. And so now I'm actually going to switch back to my board over here. All right, so I've uploaded my EZWrite lesson that I just created into my cloud drive, into my Google Drive. But do you have any questions so far?
Yeah, that seems really simple for, a lot of teachers already have those images, or maybe like with manipulatives in the classroom. I know sometimes when I taught, I really wanted certain colored tiles and, trying to find something that matches. So I feel like it's so easy. You can just Google something, save it to your computer, and then easily just populate that information into EZWrite. And so now that it's in your cloud drive, you've created it on your computer, you manipulated your resources. So now how do we get to it from here?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back into EZWrite 6. So I'll tap on the icon, and then I'm going to go back and do the same thing I did before. So I'll tap on my import tool and EZWrite, or the EZWrite files. I'm going to go into my cloud drive and go to where I just uploaded my lesson. And so now I can see that my lesson is in there and it's ready to be uploaded. And so now I have my anchor chart and I have my pieces here. Now, if you notice, this comma is a little bit out of place. So like I mentioned earlier, each software is optimized for that device. So each of the EZWrite 6 softwares are optimized. So sometimes some things will shift very, very slightly. And so it might be good to just like keep things unlocked so that you can move them around easily.
So what is the main benefit of being able to create something in EZWrite? Like, what if they already have something like this as a graphic organizer?
Okay, so the benefit of having this like on the board is you can actually just manipulate the objects. Like with the graphic organizer, all you can do is write on it. But if I have something built out in EZWrite, I can easily move these objects around. And not only that, I can actually, like, if I wanted to have infinite versions of this, I can tap on those 3 dots and then tap on the little infinity symbol. And now I can use Easy Copy and have as many pieces of this as I need.
I feel like this takes kind of the learning environment to a whole new level because, a lot of students have examples of these. They have worksheets, they have Google Slides, they have all these, but, when you want that hands-on experience, if students have these pieces in front of them, or even now, this really encourages them, if I can come in here and move these pieces, I know students are going to want to come up and do it. So I feel like this also really enhances that engagement level as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So this makes it really easy to get your kids involved and get them engaged in your lesson.
So then, even though you made this on your computer, you had 2 pages here. Can I still add more to this once it's on the board?
Yeah, absolutely. So if I figure that, like, if I have an example up here and I want my students to do more examples, I can always come here on the bottom right, tap on the pages, and I can tap on the 3 dots. And I can duplicate pages if I want to, so they have more examples, or I can even just add a new page and maybe like I can show them a little bit of like how to draw their own place value chart, or how would they draw their own place value blocks.
So if you wanted to, let's say you're teaching a class and maybe you teach 3 of the same thing over and over again, and you want to manipulate this lesson multiple times, what's kind of the best workflow you feel like in order to not adjust my original one? Because my original one lives on my computer. It's in my Google Drive, right?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So earlier when I pulled in my lesson from Google Drive, that was just a copy of it. So I don't have to worry about editing my original. My original stays in Google Drive and it's not going to be changed. But I also have the option right here, if I want to share and save it as a different file, I can right here, if I click save as EZWrite, I can name it like block 1, and then name it whatever I want to, tap OK. And then I have the option to save it directly to my board or save it to my AMS files, which I can select my board, or I can save it to my Google Drive, which will save me a lot of time instead of having to dig through everything else.
Yeah, that is so nice because, you know, having that original one in the Google Drive and teachers not having to go and recreate or even duplicate, that one lives there. And then when they bring them in, and then, you know when I taught 6th grade and I taught the same thing 3 times in a row, sometimes my 3 classes weren't in their same spot every day. So when I end the lesson, by having an easy way to save it and identify that, because now tomorrow I can come in and do the import that you already showed us and be able to continue right where I left off with each class.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
Awesome. So this was a great example of creating an EZWrite lesson on your device and then opening it directly from the board. For those of you that, if you already have a BenQ board, if you have this, we're working on our RPO5 right now, you know, these boards are Google certified, so it's super easy to quickly access Google Drive directly from the panel, but also like Crystal mentioned, having that cloud drive linked on the back end through AMS with whether it's OneDrive or Google Drive, it's really easy to access all of those things directly from the board. But is there another method that teachers could go ahead and work with EZWrite? Maybe they created something on their computer, and is there another way that they can pull this up?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a really great question. So our teachers can actually utilize InstaShare too. And like, let's say that they created a great lesson, but they don't have time to upload it to their Google Drive and pull it in and everything. So I'm actually going to go over to my computer here. So I'm going to open up InstaShare 2 on my computer, and I'm going to cast my device to the board. And so now, thank you, Lauren, you can see I have my lesson that I created on my computer, and I can still manipulate it the same way that I would if I had it directly on the board. So it's just another way. It skips that step of having to upload it to my cloud drive and pull it in. Now I can just use it directly from my computer.
I love that. And you still have access to your floating tool. So if you wanted students to come up, and even if they needed to come up and make a note about something, they could do that without actually altering the original file.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, something else that you could do, if you have 2 EZWrite lessons that actually work together, you can always take this and turn it into a floating window, and I can have another EZWrite lesson going on behind it, and this, remember, still has full touchback. So just another extra tip that you can use.
That, I feel like that takes multitasking to the next level.
Absolutely, yeah.
So you are working with teachers kind of all the time. So have you seen that these kinds of things really improve and enhance the classroom workflow? Oh,
absolutely. So our teachers, the one thing that teachers always ask more of is time. And so this really cuts down the amount of time that you need to get your lessons really from one place to another. And like, especially with InstaShare 2, if you're able to just cast to the board, you don't have to worry about that extra step, you know? And so it also gives our teachers a lot of flexibility. They can work on their lessons from home. They can work on it in another teacher's room, wherever they need to, and then they can easily just get it to their board.
I feel like that also makes it really easy for teachers that might travel from board to board.
Absolutely.
If all they have with them is their computer and they don't even want to have to worry about casting or logging in, maybe they don't have time, they're quickly covering. I mean, the fact that you can just plug in your computer and do all the same thing or cast while you're in guest mode just makes it super easy for traveling teachers and accessing it literally everywhere. Well, Crystal, thank you so much for sharing a little bit about how our software really streamlines the teachers being able to prep lessons anywhere and being able to access them everywhere. Thank you guys all for joining in and listening. And like we said at the beginning, if you listened to this, maybe you were on the road traveling somewhere, be sure to download EZWrite 6 from our website. It is free software, so you can download it to your Windows, your MacBook, iPad, tablet, whatever you have, and be sure to follow along and try out one of these new steps and one of these new options that maybe you didn't know before. Be sure to follow, like, and subscribe, and we will be having another episode drop in a few weeks. So definitely leave us some comments, and we'll have links to the resources for today linked in the show notes.
Thanks for joining us on Teach Your Way with BenQ. For more resources and teaching inspiration, visit us online at BenQBoard.com. Don't forget to follow the show so you never miss an episode.